for it. It's starting. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TBD Motorsports podcast. After a long time off, we decided to give this a shot again. I've got with me Mike, the Big D Dullard, and Jason 9-inch Ford. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
That's not
Better
the worst
now.
nickname I've ever had.
My question is, does Big D outweigh 9-inch?
Well, one of them is a well-respected rear end, and the other one is a pun on your last name. So I don't know. Of all
If
the
the,
of all the Dullard puns I could have gone with, I feel like that was one of the less offensive.
if there's any way to describe me better than a well-respected rear end, I've never heard it.
All right, well, we're off to a fantastic start here. So, obviously, a lot has happened since the last time we did this podcast. The world has kind of decided collectively that it wanted to go back to normal, pandemic be damned, and then had to deal with the consequences of that. And all this time, the racing world has been kind of doing its own thing. Why don't you guys want to weigh in on what you've been doing and how this whole situation's been affecting you?
I have not been doing anything besides working on my Cobra. Other than that, it really hasn't affected me. I go to work day in and day out, just like I did before the pandemic. I will shake hands and kiss babies just as I did before. Really don't care.
What are you doing with the Mustang?
It is getting a new blower, and just all the supporting mods for that. It's going under the knife in a couple weeks. Get a hold of the tuner and we'll get her dialed in and have some fun with it.
I mean, it sounds like it's just going to crash really hard sooner or later.
Well, it's either going to crash or it's going to blow up.
I mean, that's what
Which
Mustangs
happens
do,
first.
right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hoping to find a crowd of people if I do decide to crash.
right. I've never seen one that hasn't crashed. So
Well, at least that's not the block that's literally known for splitting in half, right?
Correct.
So it's got that going for it.
I mean, challenge accepted.
That's not to say that you can't split it in half.
Well, we're going to find out. There's guys running a lot more power than I am through this thing, but I'm really good at breaking shit.
Are you going to take it somewhere and run it down a track? Just see how fast it'll go.
Oh, I might. Otherwise, I'll just take it out on the highway and see how fast the cops clock me.
You know, one interesting thing I found on my, courtesy of the YouTube algorithms, it's been recommending me a bunch of like vintage retro car reviews from Motor Week or whatever the show used to be called, and they had one come up for that exact SVT Cobra, or whatever version of the Mustang you have, Mike. So we might have to we might have to watch that on here one time and have you comment on how your feedback of the car compares to the original one from back in the day.
Be interesting to see what they say compared to what somebody who knows how to drive says.
So Jason, how's things going with you? I see you've been back to at least some kart racing going on back down in Arkansas.
It's COVID madness around here. Everyone's racing. I mean, the car tracks are racing, and the kart tracks are going at it, and fairly normal. I mean, it's got a normal feel to it, and getting crowds and getting cars. But it's just it's a weird summer. My racing has been pretty awful. I've been fast, but I've had weird stuff going on all year and can't keep anything together. And did the old sudden rapid engine disassembly one weekend, and that whole bit. It's been a crappy year, to be frank. But been fast. I've been in the lead and got wrecked. I've been in the lead and had the carburetor quit pumping gas. Dad was straight away ahead. I've said before that me and Dad raced this kart deal together. He was a straight away ahead of everyone in a feature, and the bolt that holds the clutch on broke. It didn't back off, which I got accused of.
Actually
It broke.
snapped.
It did. It broke the threads off up inside the crank and let the keyway from the clutch come out. So it's been that kind of year.
Yeah, that's a bizarre one because I've never, of course, You've been racing karts longer than I have. I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, grade 8 bolt, and it broke it. And I don't. I mean, I didn't tighten it up like I didn't ugga dugga it down. I tightened it up with the same ratchets I've always done it with. So who knows?
Yeah, I'd think a grade 8. I mean, with those Predator motors, I would think that the grade 8 bolt would be more likely to pull the threads out of the crankshaft than it would to actually break the bolt itself.
That's what I'd have thought too. Like I was afraid. I was afraid it was just like you'd have to change the crankshaft over a 20-cent bolt, but I drilled a hole in it and got the bolt out of there, and everything's fine.
Well, at the very least, you got to experience one of life's small pleasures when a bolt extractor actually does the job.
Yeah, I'm now 1 for 1 million on those things.
Oh man. Well, that sucks that you've been having that kind of luck, but I guess the takeaway from it at least is that you've had the speed.
Sure, we've been fast. Like ain't no fun when your cart won't run, but we've been really fast. And I mean, like I said last time I was on here, I'm a car racer that's stuck with carts right now. But kart racing's a lot of fun when you're beating people.
Yeah, and when it keeps you being able to be out there when you don't have the time or whatever other resources to get the big car going, it's a win-win at that point.
Yeah, and the kart racing is cool. I got a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and they don't. 5-year-old doesn't like race car type loud noises. Anytime I'm running the car, I mean I still got the car, but I looked over the other night and kiddos was there watching me run a heat race, and that's it's cool from a father's standpoint. I'm sure Mike understands with his kiddos, but it's cool to try to make it a family thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
I agree 100%. That's when my son was running go-karts. That was way more fun than when I was running the modified. And he was old enough when I was running the modified to where he understood what was going on, and he just he didn't seem to get into it the way I'd hoped he had. So then when we took this chance on the whole cart thing, um, and he really got into it, that was we had so much fun.
Yeah, my 5-year-old takes after his mom, which is in no way a bad thing. He's super smart and a good baseball player already, but just kind of not interested in racing stuff other than watching videos and on TV. My 2-year-old wants to be around it already, so I think he might wind up being a racer if we go that route.
Well, at least it's baseball and not soccer like Mike's kid.
We don't know soccer exists in my house.
Yeah, I was so sad. That was probably the worst day of my life when he decided to pick soccer over go-karts.
Wow.
That's rough. I'm not gonna lie. That's rough.
Yeah,
At
I feel
least
like
at
I
least it's all
failed as a
uphill from
father.
there.
I mean, I'm waiting for when he comes out.
Oh
I'll
man.
love him either way.
Well, yeah, it's definitely been a different start to the season, of course, than I think we all anticipated. Um, Racing around here is pretty much once it went back to normal. I mean, it was kind of a little bit touch and go for a little bit. We had some tracks with like I-35 was splitting their classes up into Friday and Saturday nights, so you didn't have as many people at the track for a couple weeks. But as soon as all the statewide restrictions were lifted, that went out the window. Which I actually kind of liked that because in my mind, I think 8 or 9 classes is too many for one night. Yeah,
Agreed.
but yeah, we're doing all the racing we can do up here. That's for sure. I raced. It was a questionable decision, but I raced 3 nights this past weekend, so that was quite the
I,
adventure.
I was going to tell you on the Facebook, if you decide you want to run the car 3 nights again, but you just don't think you can hack it, I have a helmet and I know how to get there.
Yeah, and well, yeah, I mean, if I remember right, a little bit taller than me, but I think you would more or less probably fit into my seat.
I'm I'm 6'2".
Yeah, so you're only a couple inches taller than me.
Yeah,
I'll
and
make it work.
if all else fails, I'm pretty much the same build as you, John. So just give me a call if you're feeling slightly fatigued.
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get somebody with some more experience in the seat for for a night to see kind of help evaluate where the Ross Racing program is at this point.
How was the? I mean, are you figuring the new car out? I mean, any car is going to be different.
Oh yeah, gains are being made for sure. I'm still not as competitive as I'd like to be, but other than some boneheaded shenanigans at Springfield on Thursday, I've been consistently making the feature at least. So that's better than we were doing at the start of the season. Been kind of running mid pack, somewhere in like the 10th to about 13th range every night for the last month and a half or so.
I'm not fixing to get on a stump or anything, but man, I miss. I mean, I think maybe Mike again can sympathize with this. I miss so much the what I don't know if you want to call it intensity or pressure or whatever it was of showing up to a track with especially with the hobby car we were running, but we did it some with the B mod too, and there'd be 30 something sign in, and I mean, you either made the feature or you didn't, and they didn't care one way or the other, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean it makes you feel like more of a real racer for sure. You got to work for everything. It's like you know just like NASCAR was better back in the day when they had go or go homers. I mean that was and everybody's a go or go homer at the dirt track, which is awesome.
There's something about sitting in the lineup of a heat race knowing you got 8 laps to get something done, and man, that's just I miss it.
Yeah,
especially when you start donkey.
yeah. Well, I,
Oh, I'm a great drawer. I have pulled peels more than once. I've pulled a peel out of a box and had someone say, "I didn't even know they went that high." Like that's the kind of drawer I am.
I've drawn the number one 3 times this season, and 2 out of those 3 times I finished dead last in the heat. So it's like I feel like it's bad luck at this point. I drew the pole at Springfield and then screwed up, didn't get my steering wheel put on straight, and got a little confused and disoriented from that. On top
Yeah,
of yeah, it was a whole thing, but
that's a mental game right there. That's not so much it's gonna fuck up the way your car drives. That's a mental game right there when your steering wheel's off, even if it's just off a spline or two, and it's sitting there, at 10 degrees to the right, and you're used to it being centered.
it was
That's all
off. It was
mental.
off about 45 degrees to the right, and so yeah, that it was one of those deals. I had no help all weekend, so I took Thursday off work. I was scrambling. I worked late on the car Wednesday night. Was scrambling up until I had to leave for the track Thursday. Got down there. They were only running 3 classes, and the big time UMP late model Hell Tour was in town. So they were. It was bang bang bang. Keep the show rolling. So I had no time, and of course I'm making excuses at this point. But long story short, the whole thing was a mental game. I was not mentally prepared to drive that race car, and it showed.
I guess I've never. So I'm going to be the weirdo here. Like I just stick a steering wheel on and go. I've never put tape on one, and I guess I just never kind of never cared where the spokes were.
Yeah, well,
I've
and
I've
that,
I've never done the tape thing. I always had my steering wheel clocked just the way I wanted it, and I had a ritual when I got into the car.
and I
I mean,
think
it was
I think it was more like the steering wheel thing was almost more of like a symptom of the same problem than the root cause of me. I I get what Jason is saying. Like I should have been able to adjust around it for sure.
No. I mean, in a vacuum. I totally get what you're saying. Like everyone, to Mike's point, everyone has that ritual. Like I put my seatbelts on the same way every time. I even do it with we run belts in the champ cart. I even do it with that. It's the same exact order, the same exact everything. I put my left glove on first and my right glove on second, and the yada yada yada. I mean, I get the being comfortable. I just in the vacuum of steering wheels, I just stuck it on there and went. Like it was just a never even something I thought about.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I could see that, but I could also see it being a mental game. A lot of guys they have the tape on the wheel, so they know where straight up and down is at, so they know where the wheels are pointed. And if you don't know where those wheels are pointed, if you've got a steering wheel that's off, like John was saying, 45 degrees to the right, and you're used to being it, and used to it being somewhere else, you get going down the straightaway, and that pucker's way off. You're like, oh God, what's happening? It really fucks with you.
yeah. Well, what
Yeah, it could be distracting for sure.
Yeah, what happened with me is I got my hands crossed up, and then I couldn't find zero again, basically. But so yeah, they basically black flagged me because they thought I had a broken tie rod or something. Like I
Or
was,
you were drunk.
well, or that, yeah. But
But no, I've had my rituals bite me in the ass too. The very first thing I always did before I even put a steering wheel on or gloves on or belts on or anything was hit the brakes and check the bias. And I did that one night before a feature, and as soon as I hit the brakes, it blew out the right front brake line, and I had no
Mm.
time to do anything about it besides put the steering wheel on, put the gloves on, and tighten those belts down.
I don't know if you could really count that as it biting you though, because I mean, if you think about it, would you rather it blow the right front brake line off when you're sitting there waiting to go out, or would you rather it blow the line off when you're going into turn one?
I don't think it really would have mattered either way. I didn't have brakes the whole race.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is at least you were able to know that ahead of time and adjust for it. I mean, and not find that out when someone spins out in front of you going into turn one.
Nah, I think it was scarier knowing I was going out there with no brakes. And it almost made me feel like, wow, you're a dumbass for even doing this.
Well, yeah.
But
Well,
I did it. And I
again,
finished.
again. Well, yeah. What are you gonna do? Not drive?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's not an option.
This is stupid. I mean, I'm doing it, but this is stupid.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying the whole time in staging. I'm like, I'm a fucking idiot. This is the dumbest thing I have ever done in my life. I'm going out here with no brakes. And this is like I think they call it a quarter mile, just a little bull ring track. High banks, it's super fast, but it's a momentum track. And so you really got to get the car set in there. And this was back in 3-bar cars, so you didn't have all the rear steer and all that stuff going on. So, you relied on the brakes quite a bit to get you set up for the corner. So here I am driving down this track, and these straightaways are just so short. And as soon as I come out of the corner, I am just pumping the living hell out of these brakes, trying to get this thing, get a little bit of pressure so I can get it to set up for the corner. By the end of that 20-lap feature, I was fucking whooped.
Yeah, I bet.
Pitch her in there sideways and let her. You'll scrub speed.
Well, that's kind of what I was doing. It didn't matter how much I pumped those brakes. That thing just did not want to. She didn't want to slow down a lick.
Well, have you guys been following now that professional racing is sort of back to existing again? Have you guys been following any particular series or anything?
I have I, I have decided I really enjoy the Xfinity races, especially since they're not getting to practice and the bigger teams work the cars over and the drivers um, perfect the track with their computers and whatnot. They've been fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, ever since ARCA kind of started bleeding to death, I've said Xfinity is pretty much the best stock car racing out there as far as professional level stuff goes.
They,
They've really hit a good combination with those composite bodies and the low
I agree.
downforce.
They've got a car you can pass each other with. I mean, air is going to matter because of the stupid tracks they run on, but they got a car you can pass each other with, and the drivers aren't so polished and refined that they don't leave the door open for other people, and it makes for pretty entertaining racing, really.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. But I think the best thing to come out of all of this is the fact that the teams don't get to practice. You show up to the track, you draw your number for your pit stall, you go race. And that's how it should be. And if anybody says any different, they obviously have not watched NASCAR over the last 10 years as it's evolved, because as you've seen them get more and more practice time, and these bigger teams get more and more data, they've just taken off, and they've left these other smaller teams behind, and that's all you saw. But now you see these smaller teams actually getting up in there. They're putting their names in the hats for top tens every week, and I think that is the best thing for the sport so far.
Yeah,
As a contrarian, I've really enjoyed the uh, the 47 and the 44 Martins and Weatherly and Ryan Sieg and Brandon Brown and all these guys from the Xfinity series running. I mean, top 15, and they were scrapping each other for top 20s before, and they're it. So I think I think and I hope what it's doing is showing some of these guys can drive cars. They just don't have the resources to keep up week to week,
That's
and I hope it helps them out in the future.
that's where I was going with that. Is it's showing you who's got the talent, even though they're in these underfunded teams. It's showing you who's got the talent to take over for. I mean, if you look at the roster for some of these drivers, you've got potentially 5 or 6 guys that are going to be retiring here within the next 2 to 3 years, possibly. And you've got all these kids coming up that are in underfunded teams that have been running, top 20s, top 25s. Great. Yeah, that's fantastic. But now you've got them running in the top 10s. You've got them leading laps. You've got them, you know, every week they're fighting for top 15s now. And so you're seeing the cream rise to the top. And you're seeing guys like Kyle Busch, who now you see why he's so fast. He relied on that practice. He relied on being able to get that car dialed in before it was even race time.
Yeah, I was going to throw that out there. Some of those guys are hating this, and they're used to running one way, and they're not running that way anymore. And like I said, I can be a bit of a contrarian. I mean, I'm pretty indifferent on Kyle Busch, but I've enjoyed watching him complain because he's not running so well anymore, and saying they need to practice, have to practice, and it ain't working. He's not the only one, but he's got teammates that are still doing well, and I enjoy that kind of thing.
Yeah, when they announced that they were going to do this, I was skeptical that it would make that much of a difference because we all know the kind of mantra that races are won in the shop, and I kind of had it in my mind that the practice was more of an unnecessary exercise than anything for these guys. I was in favor of getting rid of it just from a cost savings and the fact that it's become redundant with in an era of however many post shaker rigs and simulators and stuff. But I guess this has really shown that practice made more of a difference than certainly I would have thought. I think than a lot of other people would have thought too.
And I think this whole no practice thing is helping the smaller teams just for the simple fact that you only have to bring one car to the track. You don't have to bring 2 or 3 cars out to the track, so you're saving money there that you can put into development elsewhere. And so, yeah, I mean, you're only helping them.
Yeah, I mean
And I
that's
think
that's
that
a
is
really good
awesome.
point. That's a really good point because if you don't have to have a backup car, you can put all of your eggs in that one basket, all of your money and resources into making that one car as fast as you can make it. I mean, that's kind of something that I learned a little bit trying in a different way, trying to run all these races, like 5 races in 2 weeks or however many I ended up doing. I'm like, man, this is like I don't have the resources to do that and be competitive at it. Like I would have been better off if I'd focused on getting the car as good as I could get it for one race. And that's kind of what these guys are having the opportunity to do now that they can devote more time and resources to one car.
Yep, and I think it's gonna end up showing at the end of the season when you've got some of these guys. I think it's just a matter of time before John Hunter Nemechek cracks through. That kid, he's got gobs of talent. He's got some pretty bad luck. He's made some pretty bonehead moves, but I think the kid's got what it takes to actually wheel a car in the series for a higher level team.
Yeah,
He's doing pretty well in a car that's never done very well.
Yeah,
and that's kind of. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he follows a career trajectory of moving up into better rides rather than kind of the trajectory that his dad's career followed, where he got some breaks here or there, but he never really got a chance to consistently stay with one good team for long enough to rack up a lot of results. Which you can argue was it were the cars not that good or was he just not that good? And that's actually kind of not that he wasn't good, but did he deserve a better ride? I guess is my point, and that was actually one of my talking points I wanted to get to for tonight. Is like how do you divide what's the car and what is the driver, especially in this
We
modern age.
we had this conversation at work maybe 2 weeks ago, and it turned into a full blown argument at a fire station over what percentage of X driver X. I mean, it wasn't over anyone particular is driving the car, and what percentage of them is resources and team.
Yeah,
And so that it got really people were very opinionated on it, way more than I thought they'd be.
yeah, and,
well,
and that's what I meant in general, like not specifically Joe Nemechek, obviously.
I think this is probably the best opportunity for us to see who's got what. No practice, you get out on the track and you go. And it's shown that some of these top level drivers, they use that ability to take advantage of all the resources they have in order to become the elite that they have become.
But do
I
you,
Um,
mean,
but do you think that
anyone?
reflects poorly on them though? That like say,
No, not at all.
yeah,
Anyone who's ever misdiagnosed a handling problem, I mean, that's a skill set. Like you run off in the corner and you think this thing won't turn for nothing. How do I fix it? I mean, that's a skill set to be able to fix the
Absolutely.
car and know how to do it. And so, I mean, if we're going to use him as an example, props to Kyle Busch for being able to fix a car in an hour of practice and have it go from a turd to fastest one on the track. But at what point do you say, well, I mean, he's good, but it's the team because they can fix a car around him. Like, where's the balance there?
And I think that's kind of what John's trying to get at is where does the line get drawn between driver and equipment?
and it's obviously it applies at every level of racing, every style of racing, but it shows up differently. I mean, you have the extremes of like Formula One, where right now you could argue there's really only one team that can win, without something fluke happening. All the way down to at the local dirt track level. I mean, the same phenomenon shows up. Like, how do you determine, like, is this guy a badass driver, or is he just got the latest and greatest equipment and is outspending everybody?
Well, at the local level, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, I try to hold judgment on people until I see them drive other things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's guys, and I could start naming names, and it wouldn't anything to y'all because y'all don't know them, but y'all know guys, places where y'all have grown up too, that got out of their own stuff they were doing good in and got in somebody else's stuff, even if it was just to help them figure theirs out, and took a car that runs in the back every week and ran it fifth, and you think, man, he just drove the balls off that thing, or got out of their late model and got in a street stock and ran well, and then got in a sprint car and ran well, and then got in a modified and ran well. And you think, man, that dude gets it. And on a national level, I mean, you can get out of the Cup car and into an Xfinity car or a truck or an ARCA car or whatever. But I mean, are they that different? You're running laps on asphalt around a track where the suspensions work approximately the same. Like it's hard to quantify.
Well,
Yeah.
it's got to be quite a bit different because if you look at let's take Kyle Busch for instance. He runs all three of those series. He's running the trucks and he's still been very, very competitive. He's been the guy to beat in the trucks every time he's been in a truck, even since the pandemic, and they have no practice. And then he gets in his cup car and he struggles. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
is it a matter of him having more skill than the drivers that normally run that series, or is it just a matter of they've got his shit figured out more on the truck side versus the cup side?
Yeah, I think Kyle, especially with it being his own team, I think he's got that truck program figured out so well. I'm sure they can just unload that thing and go to town and whoop up on everybody. Not to mention the talent pool not being quite as deep. I mean, there's still definitely some great drivers in the truck series. But I think Jason made a really good point about seeing guys jump into, and I definitely agree, by the way, about like when you see somebody jump into a different car that hasn't run well and run well with it. That's always my measuring stick too for saying, okay, that guy's a badass driver. It's not just his equipment. But
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Kyle Larson. That kid can jump in anything and run the balls off of it.
yeah,
Tony
You know,
Stewart.
yeah, Tony Stewart. He's
and
another one.
guys like that have run multiple disciplines, have run dirt, have run NASCAR, have run Indy stuff. Those are, I feel like that's kind of like the professional motorsports equivalent of what Jason is talking about the guys at the local dirt track that might hop around into somebody else's car in a different class or something. I think we
Yep.
need to see more of that.
I
Uh,
gained I gained a huge amount of. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but maybe respect is the right word for Bush when he ran that Indianapolis 500 because he ran. I mean, he ran good all day long, and that's a one-off deal. He got some practice. Don't get me wrong, but he jumped in that car and ran dudes that are Hall of Fame IndyCar racers if they have one, and wound up. I mean, I think he wound up sixth, maybe fifth or sixth or something like that in a good car, but he wouldn't have got in one if it wasn't good, and that was impressive to me to get in something different. I mean, maybe that's the professional motorsports equivalent of the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, for sure. That was super impressive. There's been a handful of other guys that have, of course, like AJ Allmendinger. People forget that he was an open wheel guy originally, but like when he went back to run Indy, that was super impressive. Um, I don't know how much you guys follow some international motorsports, but the whole Fernando Alonso and his kind of crossover deal has been entertaining and definitely eye-opening as far as his level of talent.
The NASCAR world didn't fall in love with Pablo Montoya very much, but he's had success in about everything he's ever done.
Yeah, Montoya is like, in my opinion, probably certainly of the modern age, so to speak, like a top five overall talent in terms of motorsports in general, like with everything that he's won in and competed in.
Absolutely. I thought
That
Juan Pablo Montoya was extremely versatile. I think people didn't like his personality.
Yeah, he was a bit of a dickhole. That gets lost on Dale Earnhardt Sr. and maybe even Jr. a little bit. Senior ran a lot of the 24-hour stuff at the Corvette program and some road racing stuff and had some success there.
Yeah, that's one that people don't really think about all that much or know about all that much. But yeah, definitely. And then you had like back then you had IROC, which was super cool. Have you,
That's
have you guys seen this
A-
deal that Tony Stewart's
ASX or
doing?
whatever it's called.
Yeah, I thought we would get to
SRX.
that. To just touch on IROC before we move on to that, I watched IROC as a kid because I'm not that old. I watched it just to root for whatever World of Outlaws sprint car guy was there, which is usually Steve
Usually
Kinser,
Steve Kinser.
because he was
Yeah.
the only dirt guy there, and I wanted the dirt guy to win.
Well, didn't Kinzer actually try to race in the Cup Series for a little bit,
Yeah, it
like
didn't go
Yeah,
well.
unsuccessfully?
yeah. It wasn't good.
There's been kind of a it's been really hit or miss with guys that either could or couldn't make the transition. I feel like from running sprint cars to run it, like JJ Yeley is a great example of somebody who's a well decorated USAC guy, and for whatever reason could never make it happen at the Cup level. So and then you got like Kyle Larson, who obviously for all his lack of consistency and occasional uh, racial controversies, no one could argue that he didn't belong in the Cup Series.
No, I agree. I mean, he won races, and they weren't easy races. I think he had the talent there. It needed refined a little bit. I think he was more suited for the dirt track, and that's where his heart's at. Um,
I don't.
so
Larson's a weird case because I think he's good, right? I mean, like no one's gonna say, "Oh, Larson, he's awful," but I also think I mean, has because he'll be back, kind of plateaued maybe as a driver in the Cup Series. Maybe he gets hooked up with a different team and wins a bunch of races when they're practicing or whatever. But because he drove that thing like it was a dirt car. I mean, he run the top against the wall and he pitched that thing in there and whatnot. And it is what it is, man. That's how he's going to drive stuff. And when he gets on dirt, he's going to kick the crap out of everybody. When he's
mark
on
my
asphalt,
words.
he's going to run the right rear off of it and fade at the end. And it's just, I mean, it is
He
what it
needs
is.
he needs Harry Hogg to take him out to North Wilkesboro and tell him to do 50 laps his way and 50 laps Harry's way and see which
For
one's
sure.
faster.
That's right.
But mark my words, SHR. That's where he's going to land.
So,
I'm,
hey,
I'm,
let's
I'm
talk about
marking
that for
those
a
right
minute. I'm
now.
super excited.
Yep.
So, from what I've read on it, which I don't know if y'all watched Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast, but he talked to Ray Abraham the other day, and I watched that deal. It's pretty cool. And so they were talking about it. And so, I mean, all you really know yet is IROC kind of cars, but they can adjust on them a little bit. Half-mile asphalt tracks and dirt tracks, and maybe a purpose-built road course. So, I mean, like a short road course. That sounds pretty cool. The part I like about it the best, um, I've seen some people say they don't like this, but I don't know why they wouldn't,
The bill
is
draw.
you get there. Yes, you get there and you draw for your car. Then you draw for your crew chief, which I think is cool. Then you get a little bit of practice. Every car starts the same, but you get just enough practice where you can change a couple springs or shocks or whatever, and then you go at it. And I think that's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah. I'll
And they're basically going to be sprint races, aren't they? They're not going to
Yeah,
be
short
long at all.
short races.
I like that. I think that's a good balance because, like we talked about earlier, that is a skill set, like being able to adjust on your car and diagnose the handling characteristics of it and everything. And I don't think that you can really separate that from being a good driver. Like that is one of the things that's just as important as being able to chuck it in on the top side and hit the cushion every time. Like to to
Yeah, and
to be the
so
complete package, I guess.
what I like the most about it is, I mean, the three of us, and we'll say like the four of us, counting Scott, who's not here, could go out and get in cars that are put together the exact same way, be it modifieds or street stock cars or NASCARs or whatever. And you two might love the way they're put together, and I might think it's so tight I can't drive it. I mean, does that mean I'm a worse driver than y'all? Because set them up different, and maybe I love it. Maybe I can drive it just like I want to, and y'all can't figure out how to get it to come off a corner without it being completely sideways. And I'm being hypothetical. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but I like that they give them just enough practice to say it's too tight or it's too free or it needs, to rotate better through the middle, or maybe it's perfect. Let's just leave it alone. And then I just like that very much.
So, do we know anything about the actual the cars themselves? What kind of car it's going to be? What they're going to look like?
I
Yeah.
think the only person that knows that right now is Ray Evernham.
Yeah, he's built them, and all I've heard him say is that they're going to rely on mechanical grip, not aero.
Yep, I've heard that as well. So if I had to guess,
So no
probably
no
somewhere in
T-Rex
the
car then.
right, I'd have to say somewhere in the neighborhood of, the ARCA cars is probably about as close as he's going to get.
Yeah, because it's going to have to be something that's versatile to be able to run on all those different kinds of racetracks, which is awesome. I mean,
Exactly. And it's going to have to be relatively inexpensive because they're going in on this with zero sponsorship as of right now. They're hoping to pick it up, but they're also, I mean, basically they're pooling their money and say, let's do this. And
Yeah,
CBS has jumped on board to CBS or ABC, one of the two, has jumped
CBS. I
on
was
board.
fixing to say all they've got right now is a TV contract, which is
Yep.
cool. I mean that makes it a real thing instead of them just saying, "Hey, let's do this." But that's it. That's all they're at.
Yeah, they have zero sponsorship for any of this aside from the television spot. And I think it's awesome that CBS jumped on board and said, we like what you got, let's run it.
yeah, CBS Sports is it's kind of a like I of course I don't have cable at all, but you can't get it hardly without paying for a gazillion-dollar cable package. But they do have some good motorsports coverage. They have like the Australian V8 supercars and some other things that you can't really find anywhere else as far as TV goes. So yeah,
But
that's cool seeing them support it.
I'm pretty excited to see how this gets underway. I'm really excited to see who they pick up for drivers because I think it's going to be hard for them to get some of the NASCAR drivers just due to contractual obligations and just the politics that goes through NASCAR. It's going to be really difficult for them to pull drivers out of that to run this SRX league. So I feel like it's going to be drivers that have been retired or out of the sport, you know, possibly something Kyle Larson gets into to kind of get his foothold back into NASCAR, or maybe he just says NASCAR altogether and runs this the whole time and his sprint car stuff.
So during the juniors podcast deal, it's a good show. They kind of hinted around, joked around about Earnhardt Jr. running it, and they never really said one way or the other. And I can't imagine he would. I mean, it is what it is for
I
him.
could see him
But
doing like a one-off start or something in
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
races.
maybe on a short track where even if he knocks the wall down, it's not going to scramble his egg. They did Abraham. Of course, they didn't name any names, but I've heard and seen him talk about maybe like a Bill Elliott a little bit, but who knows?
I've heard Bill
Um,
Elliott. I've heard Jeff
they
Gordon.
yeah, they did talk about uh, current drivers. I'm stuttering around. Current drivers doing it, and he said on the podcast that he had been contacted by current drivers wanting to do it as their schedule allows. And what he was talking about on the podcast was having like 8 full-time guys and 4 cars that they rotate drivers in and out of. And I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah, that sounds like a good compromise. And if you can do like midweek, of course now NASCAR's doing some midweek shows, but I don't see that necessarily continuing long term. The ratings
He
haven't been great
he
for
said
it
on
and
that
stuff.
show
So
Saturday nights
okay, Saturday nights. Well, I don't know.
through the summer, July and August, Saturday nights.
So this is gonna be something that's gonna start next year then.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
he
2020.
kind of laid out a timetable for it. It was next year, July and August. I can't remember what he said, 10 races or something like that, Saturday nights.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Elliott's been out for a while, but there's some guys that have retired more recently that were forced out more recently that you could easily I could easily see running that as something to prove that they still got it. So that would be pretty cool to see some guys like.
I mean, I think it would be cool to see even you're talking about a J.J. Yaley, somebody that's around NASCAR, but never really had a lot of success. I mean, he hasn't. Go run that for a year and see if they can do better and just find somewhere to do better. You don't have to be a Cup star to be seen as a good driver.
For sure. All right, guys, what do you feel about doing a random racing reference roulette segment here?
So here's my problem with it. Last time I guessed the question right, and I don't remember what the question was, but I guessed it right, and I'm afraid I'm going to mess that up.
Well, so here's you may have been listening or you may have missed it. I don't know, Jason, but we kind of the last time we did this podcast, we shook up the format of this segment a little bit because we had a problem where we drew some kind of crappy draws in a row to where we didn't really have a whole lot to talk about. Either it was a guy with like one start in the K&N series, or it was a sports car driver from the 50s none of us knew anything about. So, I mean, it was cool to get that history, but we're gonna for this one anyway, we're gonna kind of try to limit it to what we're going to talk about. So last time we did a NASCAR race, and we from the past however many years, and we went down, and Mike and Scott were trying to recall who was driving each car. Well, first guess the winner, guess the top five or whatever, and then
Well, that sounds fun.
and then remember who was driving each car in that year in that race.
Oh yeah, I'm in.
Okay, so to keep an element of randomness though, we're still going to do a draw here to determine what race we're looking at. So I'm going to have you guys pick a couple numbers.
The 1992 Food City 500.
If that ends up,
Jason, you pick both the numbers. I got to grab a drink quick.
Like 1 through 10. What are we doing?
okay, so the first one's going to be a number between 1 and 47,
14.
and the second number is going to be between 64 and 99.
64.
Nice. All right, let me break out the old calculator app.
There's math going on. I'm worried.
Yeah, there's formulas and shenanigans that have to be done to determine what these numbers mean.
It's proprietary.
I love shenanigans.
Okay, so this is gonna be fairly simple.
Did I do bad?
No, it's gonna be the 2006. Hold on. And no looking this shit up and cheating. That's
I'm painting a car.
okay. Hold on. Okay, so it's gonna be
I'm making myself a Dr. Pepper sponsored Thunderbird for iRacing.
nice. This is
I have a Dr. Pepper right next to me.
It's going to be the 2006 Homestead race. I'm assuming it was the Ford 400 that year. Maybe it wasn't. But
2006. Oh.
Yep, 2006 Ford 400.
Was that the car of tomorrow?
Nope, that would have
The wing?
Nope, that would have been so 2007. If I remember right, 2007 they ran like half the races with the car tomorrow, right? And then 2008 was the first full year.
Yeah, maybe so.
2006 was the last year that they ran the regular car everywhere. All right, so you guys want to try to guess who the top 5 finishers were? We'll start with guessing who the winner was.
Homestead, it had to be Greg Biffle.
That is correct.
That guy won Homestead more times than anybody I can remember.
Yeah, I think he does have the most wins there, if I remember. That's correct. Jason, who do you think the runner-up was?
2006. I'm gonna go Jeff Gordon.
Nope. Mike, you get a guess?
Casey Kane.
Nope. It was Martin Truex Jr.
Oh, that's back
In the one?
One car. Yep.
Third. Yeah, that's tough. Tony Stewart.
Right team, wrong driver.
Denny Hamlin.
Yep.
Gosh, dog.
Fourth place.
Fourth, I'll go Jimmy Johnson.
Nope. Mike.
Let's go with Jeff Burton.
Nope. Fourth was Casey Kane.
Oh, damn it!
You're,
That was
you
Ray Havernham era.
Yep, you at least had him in your top five, so you get some arbitrary points for that.
Yes.
All right, then
Fifth, I'll go Kurt Busch in the two.
Nope.
Let's see, 2006.
I'm ruining my percentage here.
Yeah,
Kenseth.
it's tumbling. Nope, it's the driver voted in high school most likely to be mistaken for Matt Kenseth, Kevin Harvick.
Oh, that was. No, that would have been about what, 4 years, 5 years into his Richard Childress.
He was the
stint?
29 there, right?
Yep, Yep. All right, so you guys, should we go down the rest of the order, and I'll give you the number and you guess the driver.
You bet.
All right, so in sixth place we had the 17 car.
Of Matt Kenseth.
Yeah.
Yep. In seventh place we had the number 10 car.
Ooh, 2006. Oh, I can see
I
it.
want to say. I want to say Johnny Benson, but it wasn't.
Nope,
it was
Valvoline
It had
Scott
that
Riggs.
goofy.
Yep.
Yeah, Scott Riggs.
Scott Riggs.
It had that weird looking tin on it.
Yep. They did the kind of they did the Evernham E off the back of it.
Yeah.
All right, in eighth place, number 99 car.
Mr. Backflip himself, Carl Edwards.
Indeed. In ninth place, number 48 car.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, that's a gimme Johnson, if you will.
Right.
In 10th place, the 07 car.
Clint Boyer.
Oh, that's my boy Boyer.
Yep.
Jack Daniels days.
Interesting fun fact. That was his rookie year.
It was. It wasn't. That was also Denny Hamlin's rookie year too, wasn't it?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
just
so. It was either
for whatever reason I knew that was Clint Boyer's. I don't know why.
It may have been what was Truex's rookie year? Wasn't that 2006 also?
Yeah, it was about the same.
Yeah, they would have been pretty close to the same. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Truex ran a handful of races, but that was his rookie year, and it was the same for Hamlin. So you had three rookies in the top 10. Yeah. Alrighty, in the 11th place, first spot outside of the top 10, we had the number 40 car.
Was that No, it wasn't Sterling Marlin, was it? It was
No. Oh. God damn it! He races modifieds now.
Yep.
Is it a lethal chassis?
David Stremme?
Yep.
David Stremme.
Yeah, that's David Stremme. Now,
I didn't know that until you said lethal chassis.
we're gonna get into some fairly obscure early 2000s drivers here pretty quick. Number 33 car.
Oh, I know that car. Scott Wimmer.
Yep.
That was a Richard Childress car.
Wow.
Holiday.
I'm impressed.
Indeed, that was.
I knew a kid who used to work on that car.
Hey, I want to back up one guy really quick. I don't want to hijack this. Have you ever seen the video of David Stremme trying to fight Kyle Strickler at a modified race?
No, but that's something I need in my life now.
They stuff each other in the wall, and then they like it's not really a fight. It's a racing thing with helmets on, but it's just entertaining because it's David Stremme.
Is it like the truck race?
The Spencer Gallagher and John Wayne.
Oh no! They don't tie up like that. They just do the whole helmets on, yell at each other thing. But it's entertaining enough.
At least throw punches. Don't be a pussy.
Speaking of drivers,
sorry. Okay, moving on.
Speaking of drivers that are not pussies, the 01 car.
Joe Nemechek. Wasn't that when him and Mark Martin were splitting a ride?
Nope. That actually, the following year, he got moved to the 13 car.
Mark Martin was still in the 6, right? The Viagra, Pfizer, or whatever?
Yeah, he would have been, yep.
2007 was, so Bobby Ginn bought out MB2 Motorsports and moved Joe into the new number 13 car, and Mark Martin was splitting the 01 car with, I believe, Regan Smith. It's either Regan Smith or Eric Almirola. I think it was Regan Smith. Anyway, 14th place, the 31 car.
Jeff Burton.
Indeed. Some of these are easier than others, obviously, with it being this recent.
Right.
We got the 15 car wait, no, I missed one. I missed two. The 20 car in 15th.
Tony Stewart.
Yep. The 41 car in 16th.
Oh, wasn't that a Ganassi car?
It was.
Reed Sorensen.
Yes,
Indeed.
Reed Sorensen,
It
one of the
was.
biggest letdowns
It was
that
Reed
Ganassi
Sorensen.
ever had.
Yeah, Ganassi had
Reed Sorensen wrecked a lot of cars.
Ganassi had a really rough stretch there from about basically from like the time that Jamie McMurray left up until the time that Montoya had the one good season in there, but basically that whole era before Kyle Larson came in, they were just kind of nowhere. All right, we got the 15 car in 17th place.
That was Paul Menard, wasn't it? For
It was
DEI?
a DEI.
It was
Yeah.
Paul Menard.
Michael
Yep,
Waltrip?
yep, good call. We got the number 6 car in 18th place.
Mr.
Still Mark
Viagra
Martin.
himself.
Indeed.
The
Although
team on the rise, they were hard to beat.
although in that
Very nice.
well played. We had the number 8 car.
Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, that was I shouldn't have even. No, actually, it was Dale Earnhardt Jr.
It was that one race where he didn't run it.
Yeah, it was that one race that I don't know. Bobby Labonte drove it. Speaking of cars that were not driven by Bobby Labonte at this juncture, the 96 car in 20th place.
96.
For Hall of Fame racing.
I mean, I can see it. I can see the car.
That was a
Was it,
good-looking car.
Was it one of the? Was it one of the Labonis?
It
Was
not,
it like Terry Labonte?
No,
did drive
it wasn't. That's why I said not at this juncture.
Was it? It was like
96.
Kevin LePage or something. It was one of those old.
Those old
nationwide
wrinkly bald
guys.
motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It was not Kevin LePage, but you're on.
Was it Mike Bliss?
No, it wasn't Mike Bliss.
Was it a Bodine?
It was not a Bodine. This is like the first real meaty challenge we've had on this one. I feel like.
Was it either one of the Greens or one of the Rainses?
Ooh,
Tony Raines.
Tony Raines. Yep.
I take partial credit for that.
Yeah, you guys can split the cookie on that one.
I knew I could see that car in my head because it was ugly, and I knew
Hey,
it was one
that
of
was
those.
a good-looking
sorry.
car. That blue and black.
I never did. Yeah, I never did like it.
Oh, well, we're gonna
I knew
have
it was one of those guys that would be wrecking the whole field at Talladega. I just didn't know which one it was.
Hey, Tony Raines had some pretty decent runs in that car. Honestly, they ran like top 5 at.
Like diarrhea runs, or
No, like they legitimately ran top 5 in the Coke 600 until they had some problems later in the race. I mean that.
My issue with Tony Raines has always been that for a while I had on my computer NASCAR 1999 or 2000 or whatever it was, and Tony Raines drove the 37 car, and he spun me out, and I hated him ever since.
You know what they say: when it rains, it pours. He's actually a spotter now for someone. I can't remember who.
is that probably fucking Quinn Hoff?
I want to say Kevin Harvick, but it could be wrong. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to touch on that. Do you want to pull off of this and go into that?
I feel
shit
bad
show?
for Quinn Huff. Like, we'll do whatever you want to, but I feel bad for him. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the only guy to ever do something stupid, but everyone's locked in their house and bored, and so they're going after him.
Sure. All right, so I'm not going to go down the whole rest of the running order, but I am going to give you 2 or 3 more interesting ones. I feel like in the 00 car,
Not Michael McDowell.
not Michael
No.
McDowell. And
No,
I'll
that
give you,
was like the beginning of MWR,
yeah,
wasn't it?
yep. And I'll give you this: it was a Chevrolet, and it was not David Rudiman either.
Was it Aaron's or
Bill
like
Elliott.
Burger King or
It
something?
was
Bill
Bill
Elliott,
Elliott with
Burger
the Burger King.
Yeah.
You guys get to split the. It was Burger King and Xbox, which I feel like is not a good sponsor matchup for Bill Elliott.
If Bill Elliott knows what an Xbox is or how to turn one on, I'd almost give you $100.
Yep. All right, how about the number 30 car?
I didn't even know there was a 30 car.
I'll give you two
Oh
hints.
no. The Texaco, Haviland.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
Montoya.
talked
Yeah.
Montoya. We just
There you
talked about
go.
it.
There
Yep.
you go. I was gonna give you my
Yeah,
I see it
like-
with the big red number.
my first hint was gonna be that it was Ganassi, and my second hint was gonna be that he crashed.
Because
Well, that gives it away.
that would have been his entry into NASCAR about that time.
Yep, that was actually, I believe that was his first start.
I remember that car. I got excited, but I was kind of guessing because I knew it'd be around that time. But that was a interesting deal.
All right, one final one. The 42nd place finisher out of the race with an oil leak. The 09 car.
What was
Did he get into legal trouble?
Yes.
Jeremy Mayfield.
Yeah, that kind of holy crap. There was 12 drivers that failed to qualify for this race.
okay? Give us those numbers, or at least a couple of them.
All right, I'll give you a couple of them. In the 95 car for owner Clarence Brewer.
Yeah, no clue. Was it sponsored?
It was sponsored by Scott Shop Towels, Kleenex, and Sam's Club. So it was Brewco, like the Xfinity team or Busch team at the time.
Was that Stanton Barrett's? I mean, wasn't he in with that?
I think he may have driven for them, but it wasn't.
Was it Stanton Barrett?
No, it wasn't
Wait a
Stanton
minute.
Barrett.
Did he used to drive 27 car?
In the Busch series,
I don't remember if it was Busch Series or Cup Series.
I believe he might have. It's not. Wait, yeah, he did. The Castrol car.
Yes.
Yep,
Casey Atwood.
indeed.
Man, I don't remember that car at all.
I remember
Probably because it didn't make the race.
Yeah,
I remember the Scott's sponsorship. I couldn't remember the number of the car, but I could see it.
How about the number 61 car for Bob Jenkins?
61.
Yep.
Boris said.
Nope. I'll give you a hint. His name has been mentioned in this conversation.
Is he a Benson?
Nope.
Or
His name has also become a verb.
Kevin LePage.
LePage.
Yep. He LePaged himself to 53rd on the timesheets.
Well done.
Yep. All right, one last one we'll do. This one actually is listed as withdrew in the number 89 car.
Oh, that's Morgan Shepherd. Whoever
Hell-
doesn't know 89 car.
I was,
Morgan-
yeah.
Hell yeah, it is.
I was just fixing to say he did not get to race with Jesus.
You know, he did. Well, actually, his sponsor was Victory in Jesus, which I feel like
Well,
was
there wasn't that either.
well.
that was a little ambitious, given the budget that Jesus was allotting him.
Jesus
I mean,
did not like
sometimes-
Morgan Shepherd.
Sometimes I wonder if he forgot to take off his roller skates before he got in.
Indeed. All right, guys. Well, we've got just a couple minutes here before I want to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I'm trying to kind of keep us to a tight hour. Any final thoughts? Any Quinn Houff bashing or defending, or catchy nicknames I can use to introduce you guys next week?
I'm a big fan of the well-known rear end. I mean, I'll take that nickname over many others I've ever had.
Mike, any words of wisdom you want to leave us with?
I don't have any words of wisdom ever.
Any just words then, I guess.
I hope.
I'm gassy.
I hope. We talked about NASCAR and their infinite works of wisdom. I hope at least on a limited basis, if they don't do it all the time, they stick with no practice and maybe some double headers. And man, it's made it interesting, and it had gotten very uninteresting. Like, let's just call a spade here. It had gotten to where you sort of just kind of knew how the race was going to go before you ever even turned it on, and now you don't. And that's there's something to be said for that.
Yep, I agree. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season turns out.
And I get it. If they want to practice for the Daytona 500 or the race at Darlington or the 600 at Charlotte, I mean, they got stuff. They could practice for those and be fine. But man, I've really enjoyed it.
Nah, I disagree. Don't Don't pull certain races just to be able to practice. If they're gonna let them practice the Daytona road course. Okay,
Yeah, that one's going to
let them get
be.
an hour. Let them get an hour of practice. Get the cars dialed in. Okay, let it so that they're not just pushing through the goddamn wall. I mean, that's going to be a difficult track. That's going to be just as bad as the Roval. I mean,
I get the feeling they're going to walk that one back. I think they're going to end up allowing them to practice for that because that's going to be a safety issue. I feel
Well,
like.
they,
I agree.
I want them to practice there just because they haven't ran there before.
Yeah. Well,
No, I mean, don't give them 2 hours.
yeah, no,
Give them 45 minutes so they can all see the track and then get them off there.
yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, it's been a lot of fun. Real quick, want to say I'm going to be doing the Speed Zone show for I-35 Speedway tomorrow. So if
Hey, we didn't talk about that, and I'm not trying to add too much time, but
yeah, no.
what
So
explain what's going on there.
well, basically the I-35 does a weekly web show similar to this, except for people are actually there in person, basically.
They and they have listeners.
Well, yeah, that too. But yeah, they every week they get generally two or so of the drivers, from the track to come in. They interview them about their season and their quote unquote career and all that good stuff. So I did it one time last year and had a really good time, and I think it seemed like they enjoyed having me on there, so they invited me back this year. So
That's a cool deal. So I was thinking about that after I saw you was going to be on there, and we talked about it just for a second before we started this deal. But I was a teenager. There was a radio station here, and it wasn't a very strong radio station. It was in Truman, Arkansas, that
with
did a racing hour, and it was cool because they would do phone interviews, but with local guys. My dad was on there. It was a neat deal, and it gave fans more of an idea of who they're rooting for or against, other than just he's the dude with the black 64, or he's the dude with the white 11, or he's the dude with the blue 4. You know what I mean? Like it, and
yeah,
I just thought that was neat, and I wish more places would do that. And I think it's super cool that the place you're racing at kind of has a PR department and is trying to get out in front and be fan friendly.
yeah, I think it's pretty awesome too. It's like you said, there's not a lot of places doing that, and I'd kind of like to see what we're doing here eventually evolve into something where we get some more guests from the local racing world on here and kind of do what you're talking. I mean, it is a racing hour, so we can get all kinds of different people and local racers and stuff on here, and I plan on doing that in the future. So excited to see where we go with this. I'm glad we got it going again. Obviously, we've all been busy in various different ways, but really enjoyed having you guys on the show tonight, and
Yeah, always fun
shooting
to
some
always
bullshit and
fun to
all that
chat
good
with you
stuff.
guys. Maybe we can work it out and get together again.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, gentlemen.
Enjoy your evening.
Witty tagline here.
Ba-doom-tsh.